Harry, can you tell me your title again? I can't remember.
Manager of Finance.
Okay, thank you. $7:00. Let's see if we have a quorum yet. Andrea Kelly, Susan Albright, Deb Crossley. Yes, we have a quorum. Okay. Why don't I get started with the meeting? It is 7:00 and I see that we have a quorum. My name is Allison Leary, City Councilor at Large from Ward 1, Chair of the committee. And the councilors with me at the start of the committee include, why am I losing my participant screen here? Councilor Andrea Kelly at Large from Ward 3. President Albright at Large from Ward 2. There's something wrong with my participant screen. Councilor Deb Crossley at Large from Ward 5. It keeps going invisible on me, my participant screen, so there's something up. And Councilor Laredo at Large from Ward 7. And I believe that is everyone this evening from the committee. Oh, Councilor Gentile. Okay, this screen is going to drive me nuts. It keeps disappearing on me, so I can't see anybody. But I think that's everybody. And I'd like to introduce other staff that are here today, including our Chief Operating Officer, Jonathan Yo. I see the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation and Culture, Nicole Banks is here. Our Public Building Commissioner, Josh Morse. Perry Rosenfeld, Manager of Financial Planning, and Connor Roach, our Senior Financial Analyst. Laura Kritzer from the Community Preservation Committee, Luis Perez de Morzi, who is our, oh no, you have a longer title, Luis. Our guy that does everything on Parks and Recreation. Our key player.
I'll take Director of Parks and Open Space for now.
Director of Parks and Rec. You're so much more than that, though, Luis. And that's, I think, our key players that are here.
We have Councilor, apologies. We have Rafiq Ayub as well from Public Buildings.
Okay, thank you. Very good. I also want to, our committee clerk this evening is Cassidy Flynn. Now, let me go to my packet. And so committee agenda. I didn't print it out, of course. So this evening we have our budget for, of course, the public buildings. And so our first item is a public hearing. It's 5:58 for the Gaff Pool project at 256 Albemarle Road. It's item 13223. The Design Review Committee petition pursuant to 558 for schematic design and site plan approval at 256 Albemarle Road for the design of a new community recreation lap pool and splash pad, as well as minor interior upgrades to the bathhouse facility. So let's start with that. Commissioner, Commissioner Banks, are you kicking us off on this one?
Yes, good evening. I would love to give an introduction for the project. Thank you, Chair Leary, and our Public Facilities Committee. Parks, Recreation, and Culture doesn't get to be here very often, so we're excited to be here this evening. This is a joint project that our department is running with Public Facilities to replace the Gaff pool. I'll start off by just taking us back a little over a year and a half ago. Our department came before the city council to have a conversation about the Gath pool, some of the issues and really just the age of the pool facility that we were facing. And the city council was very supportive and actually said, we have an opportunity about every 50+ years. It's really time to replace the pool. And so at that point, our departments began to look at a replacement versus a refurbishment. Our project also includes some refurbishments to the building, some increase to the accessibility, and makes it just a better fit for the community to use the space. I've been so grateful for everyone in the city who's been working on this project. Many of the faces that you see here on the screen, Public Buildings, PRC, but we've also been assisted by so many others, procurement and law, DPW, many others along the way. In this project, we've worked with many community groups. We've held quite a few community meetings. We have been together with our Parks and Recreation Commission. We've been with the Commission on Disability. We have been with the Design Review Committee. We've been before many of our city council detailed meetings to go over things there. And I think we can maybe say most importantly, our CPC committee, who is looking to fund this project together with the city. So I don't want to steal your thunder for after this because it's the second item on the agenda, but we're thrilled to be working together with them. I'd also just like to thank our consultant who's been working with us throughout the project. Tom Scarlatta is here this evening from BH+A. It has been a timeline of a project that has kept us very busy. And we've been doing many presentations and many community engagement outings to get through all the details of this. And of course, I want to thank Mayor Fuller and Jonathan's here representing the administration here this evening. But Mayor Fuller and the City Council just for your support in getting this project rolling and letting us move it forward to the point that we're at this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I do think we have a presentation. And Tom, would you like to share your screen?
Please, thank you very much. And is that visible to everyone?
Yes.
Very good. Well, with all the presentations, I've been running out of photographs to put on the cover. So I decided to show the interior and part of the project. When you first walk into the lobby, we are going to be getting rid of the portable table. All the cables have a secure entrance here, opening this up so we have more of a visible connection to the back, as well as providing handicapped accessible transaction counter. So that's one of the major components in the building lobby that we'll be working on, and we'll continue on explaining that as I go forward. On this past Tuesday, we filed the notice of intent with the Conservation Commission, and I'm just quickly just talking about what we're doing. We've talked with various departments in the city about construction and access. Obviously, we're showing the limits of work. This is what this line is here, where we're going to be putting up a fence, and we're still working on coordination with the schools relative to drop-off. This is a highly used corridor for access to the day school, so that's still in progress. Putting restrictions on the contract when they can work. Also providing over on this side of the site, since we are incorporating a portion of the existing tennis courts into our project, and they are going to be taken away as part of the larger project. This becomes our lay down area and temporary access that will be put in and then obviously restored back to grass until the Albemarle Fields project goes in. We've gone through all the stormwater calculations. We had a fairly high hurdle to get over relative to our water in terms of flood capacity, flood storage. But we're able to do that with a few devices where we were able to cut into existing areas that are actually beneficial to the project. as well as to come up with a unique way of carrying some of the capacity underneath our filled areas using culverts that will be secure, and then adjusting the grade on the spray deck. I won't go into all the details, but the submissions it does work, and the information was provided. This is basically the same drawing, a little bit different, without all the limits of work on that. And then just using a base drawing that we're working with. One of the things that we've been able to do at request with working through a number of committees, the area in front of the building, we are still adding the ramp and reworking the steps, but the large asphalt area that sits in front of the building will now be a green space. They were requested to have a lawn area here so that people waiting to go in or out of the pool, or just to be able to leave the pool can have a lawn area here. We're placing bike racks on one end of the building here so that we can provide access close, but we're also providing bike storage here for roughly 30 bicycles, again, to accommodate the capacity that's anticipated, as well as this also provides support or bike storage and bike racks for the entire park. So this entire area will be reconfigured with green space, soften the building up. We're taking the garbage cans that sit right next to the entrance, moving them over here near the new areaway, which takes us to the basement levels. And again, we've continued to develop the decks. We've worked through a lot of the pool details, and are just continuing to move forward. We have in the bathhouse, again, we have our ramp, the entrance here, the newly configured entrance here. We've opened this up to provide better access. We are providing direct access from the lobby out to the pool decks. So then, as well as we have some lockers in here. So that way too, you do no longer have to walk through the locker rooms to get out or through the office to get out to the pool. The public has direct access. We have the gender neutral toilet showering facility and a gender neutral toilet directly off the lobby. In addition to the accessible facilities, you have both in the men's and the women's room. We have added doors to the women's shower stalls, and we have provided stalls with doors on the men's shower stalls. Right now, just a wide open area. The other big element that we're doing here, instead of cleaning up the basement, is providing an areaway with flood-proof doors to get down to the lower level. Currently, all material is brought up to the deck and then dropped down, already down. This provides direct access now for service, for deliveries down into this area, as well as provides the second means of egress, which was lacking in the lower level. The pools, again, we have our 8-lane lap pool, large ramp, accessible lift here, shade structures around the perimeter. This is, we're calling it the zero depth pool. So we have from the deck, you walk directly down to the water here as like a beach entrance. This will have railings to provide handicapped access here, as well as an additional lift due to the perimeter of the pool. Providing convenient stairs here for what we're calling a water exercise, whether this is water walking, it can be used for lap swimming, but as a general sort of, typically we see programmatically, the city sees as being used as for resistance walking and exercise, and then a very generous recreational area here, along with a defined splashdown area for a new slide. Other amenities here are we have rinse stations, outdoor showers that have 2 heads, and foot showers as you exit the building, so you can rinse off without going back inside the building. We have shade structures here that would be set up for seating with some permanent benches behind. This is also can be an ideal area that can be used as a place for any sort of real storage, or if people want to move a stroller or a carriage out of the way, that's accessible to them. And again, this design really hasn't changed. We have the ramp coming up, steps down to the south where the lawn is for large group meets. And we've opened up this backside here and the areas on the side so that we can accommodate the smaller meets with many more spectators on the deck, as well as being very conscious about having adequate space for swim teams. We've talked with the swim team as well as the Sean Nickerson, the aquatic director, to make sure that we're doing the best we can in terms of accommodate their need when they have these events. Again, just more details. This is a larger detail of the pool, the 8 lanes. The lap pool, again, they're oriented slightly because I have to get larger drawings on the smaller sheets. The one thing I wanted to point out is that we are now showing the toe space so that 2 feet off the bottom, which I wanted this for structural reasons. So from a roughly 5 feet of water all the way through the deep end of the pool, there's a 4-inch by 4-inch toe space 4 feet below the water line. So an individual can grab onto the gutter, put their toe in this space and support themselves without just hanging off the side. And that'll go on both sides of the pool, as well as beneath the racing lines along this area here. These will be tile racing lines for the 8 starting blocks that are here. And again, these are the positions for the return on the kick turn end of the swimming pool. One of the elements that we had to change, we lost our little step that we had in the splash pad. We needed to change the grade of the spray deck to accommodate our flood storage capacity. The deck generally remains the same relative to the layout, the fixtures, fully accessible for all. It's universally accessible. We've received feedback from Parks and Recreation, who would receive feedbacks from the Friends group, and we're incorporating some of the changes where we can, being very conscious of the activity, the age of use, the age of the users, and kind of the activity, the water saving demands of that. And this is the same figures that were presented before. I'll let you, Luis, or go through those. But this is the numbers that we're working where we're at.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, this is essentially the current budget for the pool, and Tom is working diligently to develop the scope to fit within that budget. So with that, hand it back to the committee.
Thank you very
I'll make a
much
motion.
for that presentation.
Chair Larry, could I also add, we have our Friends of Albemarle group is here watching tonight, and I did want to mention them as well. They've been a great partner for this project, as well as the Albemarle Park project that we've been working on alongside with this one.
Of course. Yes, they've been great partners. We've been hearing from them, and I know they've been integral in the project. If you could, Tom, if you could stop sharing your screen, I get
Sure.
a better.
No problem. There you go.
Thank you very much. That way I can just see a little bit better. So I'm going to take questions from the committee, and this also is a public hearing. So of course I will take public comment as well. So I see Councillor Kelly has her hand up.
Oh, thank you, Chair Leary. You know, I can attest to the many, many meetings and changes and adaptations and tweaks and refinements that this project has gone through. And I really appreciate that, and so much like seeing this almost finished product. I have one question. I just happened to notice tonight, I hadn't before, that it looks like the men's shower stalls are much larger than the women's in the locker rooms. Is that true, or just was that a funny effect?
No, I think it's a funny effect on the drawing. It's based on the reason is there's a number of fixtures in the side that I think she drew them just to the current spacing. We're actually adding an extra shower piece into it. So no, they're all roughly 3 by 3.
Oh.
It's all equal.
Tight and nippy and
Yeah.
equal. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah.
And I may have missed it in your talk and the things tonight. And again, these are really minor details, truly just questions. Did you show a place where there is stroller storage or parking on
Yep.
around the periphery or on the pool deck? And where was that again?
Currently, where the wading pool is, that area tucks in next to the building. And that is staying as part of the pool deck. It's going to be lower so that the pool, again, our pool decks are flush with the floor of the bathhouse. So everything is accessible. That area is kind of out of sight, or it's kind of in the shade, not necessarily visible. But we are putting a structure there that can be used for like the lane line storage if it's needed there. But it's also a place where, as directed, they can someone could park their stroller or carriage just so that they're not clogging up the deck. That's going to be more of a management issue, how that happens, but that was thought that area could happen in that area right there.
Is that too where the lane 3 reels will be stored, or are those somewhere else?
There's a number of options where those can be located. We did a layout of the multiple options for the number of reels that we have. We have 3 in the size of them, and they can fit up against the fence and still have plenty of room in that area. The lane reels could also sit up sort of in the corners in other areas of the deck.
So
The
you're
deck
still
is-
working on that. They're big. They're like 7 feet
Yeah,
long.
They're
each,
more,
right?
the thing is, we've shown layouts and they're movable, and I think
Okay.
there'll be more of the fact when you have them where they'll figure out where they're gonna go.
Yeah, I just wondered if you had showed it and I missed it. So it's still a work in progress on those. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. And thank you all so much for all the work you've done on this.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I have to say, I'm so looking forward to this pool. It's going to be such an improvement. All the wonderful amenities, going to be great. I just want to say that we've also been joined by Councillors Downs, Greenberg, Danberg, and Humphrey this evening. I'm not seeing any other hands up from councillors, so I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this project? You can raise your hand by going to reactions. And then there's a point where you can click raise your hand. I'm just going to look through. I guess everyone's all talked out on the pool because we did have very robust discussions about it. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up. So is there? Councillor Laredo, I see your hand up.
I'm just ready to move approval of the item. I think it's great. And we've discussed this, as you said, Chair Leary, a lot.
Yes, we have.
And I think in that process, we've both come a long way towards a better project, and also, I think, to the best of our ability, satisfied an array of frankly competing concerns at times. And there's always some compromise involved whenever you do something. And I think this is going to be a wonderful addition, like you said. So I'm ready to move it. Thank you.
Totally couldn't agree more. I see President Albright has her hand up as well.
Can I just ask a question about the bathhouse? What the surface of the floors and walls will be?
They basically remain as, well, the areas that we are changing, we're going to be putting down an epoxy floor in the areas and the toilet areas. The remainder, we're not really doing any other changes other than it'll be painted masonry and then the floor, the coating that's there now.
So is it a concrete floor? What is it?
So right
There's a-
now it's an epoxy floor and epoxy paint on CMU and concrete.
Okay.
All set, President Albright? Okay, so Councilor Laredo has made a motion to approve. Let's do this on a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Josh Morris has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm
Council-
sorry. I couldn't see that. Go ahead,
I-
please, Commissioner.
Just a process, you may want to close the public hearing.
Yes, thank you. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Okay, so Councilor Laredo has made a motion to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any nays, any abstentions? Okay, that is approved. Our next item for discussion is 166-23. And this is the Community Preservation Committee requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $5,834,362 to the control of the Planning Department and authorize general application borrowing. And so let's move on to that item. Let's see. Is the director of the Jennifer, are you gonna present this? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. As Chair Lurie just said, I'm the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, and I'm here to convey our enthusiastic recommendation for the $5.8 million of CPA funds for the improvements of Gath Pool. And we are really excited to be making this recommendation. Laura, do you want to share the presentation, or
Yeah,
we have a very short presentation?
I'll share it right now.
Thank you. So the next slide, I think, is the overview of, so just to point out that the pool design was completed or is nearly complete with the use of previous CPA funds. And as a result, we have had quite an opportunity to see the evolution of the design over the past couple of years. And we've had a lot of presentations from PRC to get a sense of their overall planning. So we wanted to basically better understand how the pool fits into the whole plan for Albemarle and how Albemarle fits in with the larger plans that the Parks Department has, because we are just mindful of the fact that there may be other requests for CPA funds. And so I just want to say too that we really appreciate the responsiveness of the city and the consultants to our many questions in those presentations. I think the next slide, we know you have just heard that the pool now includes 2 separate pools, the new splash pad, the renovated bathhouse, all the mechanical equipment and more. I just want to stress that in our meetings with the PRC, the committee asked a lot of questions about the design, about accessibility. Sustainability was a big issue for us. And also, again, how the pool fit into other plans. Next slide. Sorry about my dog. The CPC voted unanimously to recommend the funding for the project at $5.8 million. And as you'll see and saw in the previous presentation, that this is leveraged with ARPA funds of state earmark and staff time. We recommend bonding the full amount over a span of 30 years, which we are assured is less than the expected lifespan of the pool. Before we made this decision, we consulted with Jonathan Yeo, with the CFO of the city, really trying to understand what our options were. We know that the pool is more amenable to bonding than some aspects of the field renovations, which we have also been seeing simultaneously. So we thought very carefully about the projects together to ensure that we could be fiscally responsible. And we think that the approach here is to bond the full amount. Again, that's the sort of breakdown with the CPA funds up at the top. And I think the next slide is just the timeline, which you have seen and which suggests that the pool will be ready for the public next summer, which is really great. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Malinsky. So are there any questions from the committee or any of the councilors? I see Councilor Rado has his hand up.
Again, I think we've discussed this project. I think this is a superb use of CPA funds. It's good to see them used for a variety of purposes. I enthusiastically move this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rado. I couldn't agree more. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Councilor Rado has made a motion to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any nays? Okay. Thank you very much for everyone's time. So excited to see this pool project move ahead. So we are now going to move on to the public buildings budget, and I'm just going to read into the record the items. 121-23 is Her Honor the Mayor submitting the fiscal years 2024 to 2028 capital improvement plan pursuant to section 5.3 of the Newton City Charter. 123 parens 3, Her Honor the Mayor submitting in accordance with section 5.1 of the City of Newton Charter, the fiscal year 24 municipal school operating budget. And then 123 parens 4, submittal of the fiscal year 24-28 supplemental capital improvement plan. So, Mr. Morse, I believe this is you.
This is me.
It's a pleasure to see you.
It is a pleasure to see all of you. All right, so everybody should have received in your backup a handful of documents that should look familiar. I gave the updated less than 75 list, Councilor Crosley. I know that's near and dear to your heart and others. So that's there. I took a few off that we completed. I inserted a few new ones, which is typical for each year. I also included the updated lessons learned database. That is a document that is a living, breathing document. We update it. My whole team does each year throughout the year as we pick up lessons learned, whether it be process or design, construction. And that's a document that we share with our design and project teams at the start of every project. So our architects get to see it so that they live or get to benefit from those lessons learned, and our contractors do as well. So there are thousands of cells between those two documents. I don't plan on going through the entire list for you this evening, but they're there and I'm happy to answer any questions on those. I also included my May comprehensive capital project update covering all of our major capital projects because there are quite a few. You should have all received those. I've been trying to do them every other month for about a year now to try to, kind of put it all in one spot for not only for all of you, but for the folks that have signed up for our project listservs. We're pretty close to 10,000 people that are now following our capital building projects. So we've got a pretty good audience in the community following along. So that is great as well. And that document I will go through because I typically with our budget, I'll review any major changes to the operating budget, and then a lot of our focus ends up being on the capital projects. And then we'll round it out with talking about some of our smaller projects as well. I don't plan on mentioning every project we're working on because there's quite a few, but if there's any I miss or any that's near and dear to any of your hearts, feel free to let me know. So we'll start with the budget. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to take a look at the book. Overall, the Public Buildings Department budget went up 3.04% from FY23 to what's proposed in FY24. So I would just point out that one of the major driving factors of that bump is actually the restoration of a plumbing or funding for a plumbing FTE. During the pandemic, one of our plumbing positions was frozen. It was vacant and it was frozen at that time and had been held frozen for a while. This year that was restored. So without that, again, with it, our budget went up 3.04%. Without it, it would be approximately 1.87% increase. And actually, if you look at it, the Public Buildings Department budget covers the water sewer account for Newton Public Schools. If you back out that increase, we're at about a 1.5% increase as a department. The other thing I would just point out, and I try to remind the council every year, is that the Public Buildings Department, the vast majority of our work is actually for Newton Public Schools. So roughly 90% of our staff resources and 65% of our Public Buildings Department budget directly support the care, maintenance, operation, construction, and renovation of Newton Public School facilities. So when there are opportunities to increase our budget, they are directly benefiting Newton Public Schools. And in situations, not like this year, but in situations where there are cuts, it can have a negative impact on Newton Public Schools. But we work for the city, but we are one big team. So I like to point that out. From a high level standpoint, there were a few. I mentioned that the plumbing position bumped up. A couple other minor changes that you'll see in the budget. You'll see a slight increase in the electricity, water, sewer, gas for quote unquote other buildings or custody of surplus buildings. Those are primarily the West Newton Armory, because that's currently under our care until the planning department project gets into construction. And then also for the houses adjacent to the Williams School. When we acquired those are our responsibility currently as well. Planning is also working on a project there too. You'll see a decrease in our LSP. This is the licensed site professionals. So these are the costs that you see for cleanup of typically oil product. But in this case, it's a decrease, which folks should be happy with, especially Councilor Gentile. We have closed out several projects or are anticipated to close out this year. So that's why there's a decrease there. I mentioned before, slight increase, about a $25,000 increase in the water costs. And this is directly associated with Newton North High School. I will say that these are irrigation related. So the other thing I would point out is I know that the administration, Parks and Rec are working closely together to identify opportunities, not only to control the irrigation water better, but also to look at drilling wells, irrigation wells. So that will help with those costs in the future as well. So those are the big picture changes. Otherwise, the Public Buildings Department budget is pretty static. It's in good shape. No major changes there. So I'm going to jump over to capital projects, but before I do that, does anybody have any questions on the line items of the Public Buildings Department budget?
I see Councillor Crossley has her hand up. Councillor Crossley, you're muted.
Yep, I know.
Okay.
I'm on a laptop. I'm not used to them. It's so small. Anyway, just one question, really from your presentation. Many years ago, when Newton North High School was being designed, it was determined that what we were going to do but did not do was to connect the gray water, I believe it was, from the building to a cistern for irrigation of the fields. And since you mentioned irrigation and how the costs have gone up, I remember at the time that all the plumbing was, I heard, my memory could be flawed, all the plumbing was put in place for this, but there was an issue with the plumbers union. And that the plumbing is still in place for this. It's a matter of making a connection, which was a very small expense, relatively speaking. But there was, this was during the Warren administration, of course, was quite a while ago now. Digging wells is more expensive than that. So I'm just wondering if there's been any thought given to making this connection now. It was an error. It wasn't the Warren administration's error. It was the Cohen administration's error. So it came up early in the Warren administration's term. And so it's not the fault of anybody who's here today. I wonder if that could be resolved.
So it's a great question. The cistern in question is about 40,000 gallons. Back during the Newton North High School project, if memory serves me correct, the primary issue was that the site contractor installed the piping that led from the building out to the cistern. It was done in PVC. The plumbers union grieved this essentially and said that that should be plumbers work and that it should be done in iron. And as a result, the PVC piping was removed and the system was never connected. So I actually can update the estimates. We've looked at this a couple times over the years. It actually is a pretty good sized number, because what we have to do is we have to connect from the building all the way out to the cistern, which means that we have to open up the plaza, saw cutting, excavating, installation of iron pipe. At the time, it was a couple $100,000. The per well cost is about $13,000 or $14,000.
Okay.
So the other issue that we find is that 40,000 gallon cistern sounds massive, and it is, but it's amazing that is, if memory serves me correct, one zone for one day, and there's a lot of zones over there, will drain that cistern just by itself. The other thing that is challenging is that what's the number one time that we want to water? The summertime. When is the least amount of gray water being generated? The summertime. So the economics don't tend to look as good, but I'll take another look at that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Councillor Downs.
Thank you. I'm not going to match Councillor Crossley for historical detail. I just had some big, under functional elements when I'm looking at your budget. I noticed that school building maintenance is down by 6%. And I wanted to understand why.
So the school building maintenance, I actually misspoke when I said increase, it's actually decrease. So the school building maintenance is actually the water sewer. So that is it's a slight decrease to align with where we think we'll be for water sewer consumption. Believe it or not, that you would think that that means that we're cutting maintenance of Newton Public Schools. That is exclusively for water sewer costs.
Okay.
For Newton Public Schools.
So we're getting low flow toilets everywhere, or why are we using less water?
We're anticipating using less water because we had an unusually high period this year, primarily due to an extreme heat and drought last summer.
Yeah, it's true.
It didn't seem reasonable to assume that level of heat and drought every year.
Okay, I'll agree with that. The other one I wanted to know a little bit more about was the police HQ custodial up by 17%. Again, I'd just like to know what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to be an area that we're targeting some potential changes on, but the increase is to cover increased cleaning. Throughout the pandemic, we increased the cleaning over there. And we have certainly come down off what we did in response to COVID. But we're likely not going to be able to go back to the pre-COVID level of cleaning. That is a 24/7 operation. And prior to COVID, our custodian was providing daytime cleaning and only Monday through Friday. So there is a need for some level of off hours or weekend cleaning. And we're going to do our best to try to keep those numbers as tight as possible.
Okay, so more cleaning on the off hours. It still seems like a lot of money, but there we are. I did want to also just say how much I appreciate all the work of the building department, your staff, your professionalism, just pull out some amazing stuff. Since I have the floor for a bit, I thought I'd just pass that along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downs. I'm sure the whole committee, but I'll speak for myself, also appreciates the hard work, Josh, of you and your whole team, and looking forward to all the great new school buildings coming on and the pool coming on board.
And that's a perfect segue, Chair. So if I could, I'm just going to go through some high-level updates on our major capital projects. Okay. So, and I have to say this, these are in no particular order. They're not in order of priority. I don't even go in order of, or I don't go in chronological order. I don't want anybody thinking that the order has any impact. So the Countryside School, this is in partnership with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA. Exciting project. We are knee-deep in the feasibility phase and currently working with the facilities subcommittee at MSBA to review the latest plans. The decision has been made to go new construction. The decision has been made to site the building in the northeast corner of the lot, the highest portion of the lot, for a couple of really good reasons. The site plan, although we're not seeking site plan approval anytime soon, is coming along quite nicely. We've got a lot of good feedback from the design review committee and the community already. We are exploring the possibility of keeping the Countryside School or keeping the Countryside students and staff in their facility on site while we construct this new building, because they physically don't interfere with one another. But we've got a lot of work left to do. The staff and certainly Principal Herlihy and the parents so far have expressed strong support for that. But we need to prove it out. We need to make sure that we can manage the parking both during construction. We need to make sure we can manage, dust and noise control. We need to make sure we can manage access to the playgrounds and all of the kind of construction phasing that comes with that. But from a high level, it looks like it's pretty doable. But we've got more work to do. We need to work with a lot of stakeholders before we get too far down that road. Overall, the educational program has been set. It looks great. There are no surprises here. It is going to be a school that is similar in size to the Ainger School, design enrollment of 465. MSBA has agreed to that. What we're currently working with MSBA on is to review the design and the siting of the building, and ultimately working towards a project funding agreement, which we're hoping to secure this summer. That will allow us to continue to move forward through the MSBA pipeline, move into schematic design, and start working towards site plan approval. Again, we've got a lot of work to do before we get there, but that would be the next major milestone. We've had a lot of great community meetings for folks that have joined us. I know we have several counselors on the call tonight who are on our building committees. They've been well attended. I will say that I have sent now multiple batches of certified letters to the community. So that was one of our lessons learned, is to engage people with certified mailings early on. And then again, obviously as required for site plan approval. But I did another round of these after the override, because obviously the override got a lot of people's attention, and I wanted to make sure that we took advantage of that so that folks had an opportunity to come and get engaged on the project. Right now, we have about 200 people who actively follow the Countryside School project and come to our meetings. So we're in good shape there. What I have found is that because we have so much going on, a lot of people are watching these meetings after the fact and then emailing with questions or comments. It allows them, quite frankly, to do it at their leisure, and they can fast forward through the parts of the meeting they may not be interested in. We've already had a couple visioning sessions with the staff. We've stayed very connected with the Countryside School staff and Beth. They have been awesome in helping to set the stage for, no pun intended, as we look at stages, but to set the stage for the future of the Countryside School. Lots of great ideas coming from them. We had our first meeting with the Conservation Commission. That went extremely well. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do because they're right in our backyard, literally. We, of course, gave an update to the Public Facilities Committee. That went extremely well additionally. And then our Countryside School Building Committee voted unanimously to submit the preferred schematic report to MSBA. And all of those files are on our project webpage. We've posted everything. I try to send these out to the project listserv following every meeting so that people, whether they made the meeting or not, have access to all of the materials with a brief explanation of each meeting. That is the high level on the Countryside School project. We are still on track to break ground in 2025 and complete the project in 2027. Still very early, so there might be opportunities to accelerate that, but time will tell. Huge thank you to Newton Public Schools, Beth and her team, the PTO, for helping you spread the word. Our design team from Danisco, Dorm Whittier, our owner's project manager, and of course my staff. I'll thank all the staff at the end of this, but the Lincoln Elliott School project. So we are now in the final phase. We're in construction documents. We are working hard with our design review committee to move this project along. Our program is extremely well established at this point. This is a view of the lobby coming in from the Jackson Road side of the building. You're looking into the library there, starting to play around with the introduction of some kind of vibrant colors and developing our color pattern for the school, working with the staff on this as well, Maura Morse and her team, using a lot of 3D modeling to kind of fly through and help make sure we're nailing down sight lines and form and function. The staff and the community have been extremely excited about the project, especially as of late when it really starts to feel real. We are looking to bid this project towards the end of the summer. We're going to start construction this fall. We are still on track to be completed with the project in the summer of 2025. Just a few other images. This is the library looking back out to the lobby. We're also starting to work with the design review committee. As you can see, we're looking at a lot of different options on the addition, looking at how we break up the massing. For folks that have been around and been through these a few times, the gym is always the big addition, and that is the area we spend a lot of time trying to make sure we're scaling that down as much as possible. We have a lot of direct abutters who are directly engaged in this project frequently, which is awesome. So we've been able to incorporate a lot of their suggestions as we move forward. So that's the Lincoln Elliott project. We're moving right along and in great shape over there. The Franklin School project, we are about to do another staff visioning session, which is super exciting. I always love those. This is our staff visioning session from last fall. Our next one is in, I think, 3 weeks. So we'll be working with Mark and his team over there. Extremely excited to be able to re-engage with them. This is a very passionate teacher base. So it's going to be really cool to be able to round things out with a visioning session and really get cranking again on feasibility. At the same time, excuse me, we're going to, we just presented the space program, the space summary, which identifies the design enrollment of 396 to 414. That number may sound familiar for our Ward 1 counselors. That is the same design enrollment that we use for the Lincoln Elliott School project. The Franklin School enrollment, current enrollment, and certainly the projected enrollment suggest that is a very reasonable number. But just like Lincoln Elliott, in the design process, we will include in the design a future siting of additional classrooms should they be needed. All core spaces will be sized to support a full, 465 student population so that the building can grow should it need to. So the school building committee endorsed that. We're in good shape there. We went through the space summary, the space summary, again, as a reminder for folks, that identifies every single space and the sizes of every single space and quantities of every space in the entire building, and ultimately determines how big a building it's going to be. That review went extremely well with the school building committee, and we look forward to presenting that to the school committee, I believe on June 1st, or maybe no, June 12th, and then a follow-up vote on June 20th. Once the space program and design enrollment is approved by the school committee, we can really then get going on the remainder of the feasibility phase. Same thing, we will start to evaluate addition, renovation, and new construction options, varying site test fits, and we will approach it the same way with our criteria and our matrix that you see so often. And we'll be working with the community to weigh the opportunities and challenges associated with each of those. Ultimately, working towards a decision, I would say, on that front sometime this fall, and then working towards site plan approval thereafter. These are some of the images that we use when we're working on visioning with the staff, but they're, of course, exciting to get people thinking about what could be there. So we are in, I've covered all of this. Same thing, I'd just like to thank HMFH Architects, our design team. And we are in the process also of working with the designer selection committee to onboard or to interview our owner's project manager and ultimately select those. We hope to have them on board by the end of June, which will time out perfectly, meaning that school committee gets the design enrollment and space program established. We get our OPM on board, it all hits at the same time, and then we roll right into the summer and roll our sleeves up and get to work. We are still anticipating that this project would be able to start in 2025 and complete in 2027. That is assuming, and we've spoken about this in the past as well, that that Countryside doesn't need the swing space and that Franklin doesn't need the swing space at the same time. As I mentioned before, it looks like there's going to be an opportunity to do Countryside on site. If that's the case, then Franklin can either use the swing space, should it be an ad reno or new construction, or if Countryside needs the swing space and Franklin decides to do new construction in a different location on the site, then it could also do what we talked about with Countryside. It may be able to do to stay in its current facility while we build a new facility. Either way, we've been very honest with the community. It looks like we're going to be able to do 2025 start, 2027 finish. but there is that long shot that we start in 27 and finish in 29. But we'll continue to work with both of those communities as we move forward with that. The Horace Mann School project is currently on hold, but I was up late with all of you last night watching your deliberations. I am hopeful that the Horace Mann project will be funded and will be able to move forward. And we are ready to hit the ground running when that time comes. The Newton Center for Active Living project. This project is got a very similar timeline to the Lincoln Elliott School project. We are now in construction documents, final phase, working on fixtures, furniture, furnishings, and equipment. We're starting to look at color patterns because this looks a little sterile right now. So we'll be introducing all of our paint colors and our finish colors in the coming weeks. We are pre-qualifying contractors. So just to give you a sense as to how close we are. So big picture, I think we're going to be looking to begin construction probably in September. We'll be bidding over the summer and then starting work in September. And our goal is to finish in the summer or fall of 2024. Yes, 2024. The inside of the building, the floor plans have not changed, but we've continued to refine elements. And the outside of the building is unchanged, almost completely unchanged. So we're in good shape there. The design review committee just last night met to review the final or the 90% construction documents, and they ultimately voted to allow the project to go out to bid, confirming that it meets the program and is ready to do so, obviously with comments, which is pretty typical. But that is our last major hurdle before we put the project out to bid. And at the end, I'll give a huge shout out to the design review committee because we've been keeping them extremely busy. The Gath Pool project, this one should be fresh in your minds, but it's been an exciting one. I think the design review committee really liked working on this as well. This is a different project. Quite frankly, we do a lot of schools lately, so it was kind of neat to do something a little different. And it was exciting. This really is a fun project, and I'm really looking forward to what this is going to do for the community. Huge thank you to BH+A. They've done yeoman's work on this. Tom Scarlotta, for folks that don't know it, Tom's a humble guy, but he is the premier pool designer in the Northeast. This is what he does. He designs pools. It's basically all he does. So he knows the stuff extremely well. And the Warden Underwood initiative. So we just kicked this off as well. This is an initiative that's being led by Newton Public Schools, but the Public Buildings Department is assisting from a process standpoint. We used the Designer Selection Committee to evaluate proposals and ultimately selected Perkins Eastman as a consultant to support Newton Public Schools for their enrollment and facility study. Perkins Eastman may sound familiar. They are the designer that did the Zerva School. They have a great track record on projects like this, and they have a great temperament for it as well. So we're really looking forward to that. We've done a few meetings already. All of that information is posted on the Newton Public Schools website. But this is an exciting project to help determine the future for the Warden Underwood schools, two of our oldest and smallest schools in the city. Those are the really big capital projects. I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm just going to read through some small ones that I think are important and that I think several of you, if you haven't heard about them, may want to. So the mayor recently announced that a handful of additional ARPA projects are moving forward, and I'm excited about several of these. So the Albemarle Field House is the little field house right next to Gath Pool. So just dream with me for a second. In a few years from now, we're going to have a wonderful new pool facility, and we're going to have a wonderful new complex over there with the fields and the field lighting. It's going to be absolutely awesome. But we still have a kind of sad looking little field house smack dab in the middle. It doesn't need a ton of work, but it needs a little bit of love. So the mayor announced that we're going to be spending $50,000 to repoint and spruce up the exterior of the building. We are going to be starting that work in the next few weeks. So the building is going to be getting a bit of a facelift. We have actual costs, so I know that number is good. The Newton Corner Library, also known as the Chafin House. So we are going to be doing exterior restoration and painting over there. For those of you that have been around the block a few times, it may feel like we just painted it, but believe it or not, it's been about 12 years now. So it's about due. The Newton Free Library, the main plaza, this is the brick area. It is settled quite a bit, and it's become a trip hazard over the years. So we're going to be working with Jill and the trustees to determine the best approach to resolving that. But we're going to be addressing those kind of accessibility and safety issues out front. The Hut, also known as the Jeanette Curtis Building, also known as the Newton Center Fieldhouse. We are going to be doing exterior repair, shingle replacement, gutters, downspouts, a little bit of roofing, some fascia work, and we're going to paint the building. It is in desperate need of it. So I know the neighbors are very excited about that one. Crystal Lake Bathhouse, we have some security upgrades and minor improvements over there that we're going to be working on. The Underwood roof replacement, there's a small section of roof that definitely needs it. I was just over there actually meeting with the Underwood and board staff yesterday, and we met in the gym, which is the area that the roof needs to be replaced on. So they were very thrilled to hear that. The Cheesecake Brook Bridge, so the second bridge, folks probably remember when we replaced the first one, we had talked about the future of installing a second one further down, kind of beyond Gath. This is going to be an exciting project because it's going to improve a host of things. It's going to improve accessibility on the current bridge, as well as the accessibility of the new bridge. It will expand the bikeability and walkability and the capacity to be able to easily get across the brook, but it's going to open up kind of the viability of parking further to the north on the west side of Cheesecake Brook, which would be the west side of Cheesecake Brook. So what that means is that some of the parking that may not be as preferred, because right now you'd have to park and walk a pretty good distance to get around Cheesecake and over to Albemarle, will become much more viable with that secondary bridge. And then Pellegrini, our Ward 1 councilors, I know Councilor Greenberg and the chair are going to be excited about this one. We are moving forward with the Pellegrini building exterior and mural project. So that we're going to be hitting the ground running there. I should say there are a few of these projects where there might be some state earmarks. So some of those, like Pellegrini, I think we're going to wait until September to actually get going on the project itself. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to get started on kind of the process and the outreach and some of the design work, pulling proposals together. We'll be doing that over the summer. But we want to see if those state earmarks pop this fall. If they do, then we'll be able to move forward with leveraging these funds. If they don't, then these funds will cover it. Lastly, it's a small one, but I know it's near and dear to the chief's heart. We're going to do some painting, quite a bit of painting over at Fire Station 2 on the interior. That's been something that the station captain and the men and women of the department have asked for. So those are, oh, and I should mention also the Jackson Homestead basement project, waterproofing and archive improvements. That project is also moving forward. It's a partnership with the Community Preservation Committee, CPA funds. And we are working with Rafiq Ayub from my office and Russ from the board, and of course, Lisa. So that's another exciting project. So now I'm just going to end with a bunch of thank yous if I can. I'm blessed. I truly am. I mean it when I say that I love my job and I love working in this city. I'm surrounded by an incredible team of staff. Everybody in my department is just wonderful. They are excited to come to work every day. They love what they do. They're good friends in and out of work. It is just a pleasure to be able to work in the department. We have a tremendous amount of work going on, unprecedented. I mean, and we've got more than Newton has really ever seen. It is a time in which you would think that the stress of all the work might be too much and might put strains on those relationships. But if anything, it is galvanized. Our department is excited at the opportunities. We're working hard, but we love the work that we do. The design review committee, we have an incredible team. We truly do. They are extremely well-rounded. We have so many different skill sets there. They are dedicated. We never have a problem with quorums. They always answer the bell, and we're ringing that bell a lot lately. They are extremely friendly, extremely respectful. Our design team loves going to them. All of our design teams do. They're just a pleasure to be with and be around. I can't thank them enough. They are so giving of their time. We have hundreds of volunteers that work on our building committees, on our working groups, on little subcommittees. There are so many people in this community that give so much of their time to ensure that our projects are the best versions of themselves. And it's a huge thank you to all of them. Thank you to the council. There are many of you who serve, whether it's Councilor Kelly on design review, or Councilor Kelly on Franklin School Building Committee, or other councilors on school building committees. We have so much going on. You're almost all on a building committee or two. Yeah. And I know it's a lot of work, but it is great work. It really is. I can tell you there is no better feeling than the day that the teachers and the students come into a new school, or the day that we open the new senior center and our older adults come to their new home away from home. These projects are so rewarding, and it makes it so incredible when we get to that point. Lastly, just a huge thank you to the residents of Newton. They, I am humbled by the passage of the override. I recognize that these are tough economic times, and that with the responsibility, we need to step up our game. And I've done my best to try to communicate and over communicate as much as possible. For folks that have joined our building committee meetings, you see we run a very, very open dialogue. There's no public comment period. They're equals. They come into the table, they converse with us throughout the meeting. I don't put them into a box at the end. They're right there next to us. Their voice is just as important as anybody else's. And I love that approach. So just a huge thank you to all of them. Lastly, huge thank you to Mayor Fuller and our team in the executive office. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to do everything we're doing. Thank you so much. And thank you to the entire city staff. We can't do what we do without the support of so many departments. There's a lot of them out there. There's a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes. I could go on for hours talking about the different departments that help us out, but I won't. So with that, I can certainly open it up to any and all questions people have. And I hope I didn't forget anybody.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for your presentation and for your hard work. It's just amazing how much you get done and how much is going on. And you're absolutely right. Everything you said, there's so many people willing to give their time and energy to make these projects the best they can be. So I see we have quite a few hands up. I'm going to start with Councilor Crossley, followed by Councilor Laredo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Josh, we love that you love your job. and the amount of not just skill, but heart that you put into this work and that you engender from your staff and everyone who works with you is unique. And I haven't been to a budget presentation yet where so many thank yous have come from the commissioner. It's clear that how much you appreciate the contributions that everyone can make. And you work hard also to make sure that, you respect and make use of those contributions. We don't always get everything we want. We probably never get everything we want, but I think of starting out here in 2010, and you were here, and the transformation that has occurred in the city and in the building department and in our capital works is epic. And once in a while we need to take stock of the achievement, even as we identify more and more things we need to do, problems ahead, challenges ahead. You know, it's important to do that. I also agree with you wholeheartedly that the other body that's been transformed in the last dozen years is the Design Review Committee. I mean, there were good people on it before, but at this stage of the game, we have folks who are really expert in their fields and who have changed the name of the game for us. And you and they have moved us forward, not without citizen, involvement, but outside of it, but, in terms of the quality of the work that we're doing and the environmental sensitivity of the work that we're doing, which means a lot to me. I had a couple questions, but you just took my breath away at the end. So let's see. The Newton Corner Library exterior restoration. I'm so glad. I'm not surprised it needs another refresh. It's an old wooden building and it needs to be cared for on a pretty regular basis. These buildings are lovely, but they are a bit of a money pit. Can you remind me, we had some issues with that building in terms of paint peeling early, mildew and so forth on the exterior. Can you remind me how that was resolved? And we don't want to be painting the building more than every 5 or 7 or whatever year, how many years it's been.
I think it's been 13.
13, yeah, that's not good. That's really not good. Okay, so how the water issues, the moisture issues, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we had one of our on-call architects that specializes in envelopes came out, did an evaluation to ensure that we didn't have anything that we needed to address other than just the painting and preservation. They confirmed there's no water infiltration, no humidity or dew point issues inside the building. They confirmed with pinpoint probes that that there's no moisture issues in the wood itself. It truly is based on, and I have the letter I'd be happy to share. It truly is just surface mildew in areas where either the trees are overhanging and there's just not enough daylighting, areas that are kind of tucked out of the way where there's very little airflow, or areas that weren't prepped well the last time were kind of the 3 categories they slid that into. But part of this project for the painting and restoration is going to be working with that consultant to ensure that our preparation is placing us in a position where we get as much longevity out of this go round as possible. We'll also be working with Mark Welch on not cutting any trees down, but there might be some tree trimming that we need to do just to make sure that we expose some of those deck areas to some additional daylighting.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. The list of small projects is great. You started off by saying that ARPA was funding the Albemarle Fieldhouse improvements. Is ARPA paying for the whole list, or there? You said that the mayor has made some additional ARPA allocations, and I don't memorize them. So is this whole list of small projects being paid for by ARPA? You only gave $1 amount.
Yeah, the list that I gave you, aside from the painting project at Fire Station 2, is ARPA. As I did mention, there's a couple of those that I'd be happy to go through that we're seeking state earmark grants as well. If those pop, then we wouldn't need to utilize all, in some cases, any of the ARPA money, but we'll know better as we move towards the end of the summer and into the fall.
Okay, thanks. It's a smart list. Pellegrini's been a long time coming, and I'm sure my Ward 1 colleagues are going to want to talk about that. But it was back in 2010 when we first looked at Pellegrini, when we were becoming a green community, and we're going after that DOER money. And Pellegrini was one of 2, and we chose the Lower Falls Community Center that needed a lot more work than the exteriors first, because you got to seal up the building, but I'm just wondering, you know, do you know or remember where that stands as a community facility that in need of upgrading? It has an old, unless it's been replaced and I didn't notice, HVAC system and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the building is pretty straightforward. It's just it is just a brick building with essentially no insulation, as you would expect for that age of a building. The roof is old, the windows are old, the doors are old. This project will allow us to button up the envelope, secure the roof, do our you know, push the envelope, no pun intended, with the insulation on the roof side. Grind and repoint our masonry joints so that we stop the water infiltration. Ultimately, it won't insulate the walls. The insulating the walls would need to occur from the inside for a building like that. I know you know, but just for everyone else. But really what this will allow us to do, Bill Ferguson and I have talked about this as a candidate for green communities, but it's difficult to invest green communities money on the inside and for, you know, weather, you know, energy items until we get the outside of the building buttoned up. So this is kind of the step towards that. And then once Bill can work to get our envelope more efficient, then we can start looking at converting our heating system to heat pumps. It's a small building. This would be an easy one to convert over to heat pumps.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. You know, we have a model for doing that in the Lower Falls community. We haven't done that since then, that deep energy retrofit. But the way we got there financially was not only with DOER money, but as you know, we got $500,000, which would need to be probably more today, from a governor's grant, and the Ward 1 councilors might want to look into that with their, it was Representative Khan who set that aside, got that money. Just as an aside, because it seems like they're today with all the infrastructure money available, that might be something that could be pursued. I'm just thinking out loud.
Councillor Greenberg and I both met with Representative John Lawn, who represents our precinct,
Also.
and we are getting money from the state. And I just don't remember off the top of my head what specifically, if it's going to be working on the building or the field or a combination. If Councillor Greenberg's here, she might be able to speak to it, but we're very grateful for that and for the work being done at Pellegrini, and love to see that building become
really important. Yeah. Thank you. And just thank you again for all your good work and love for the city, because I didn't want to think about what things would be like without you, Commissioner Morse. So thanks a lot. I'm ready to vote, but I know.
Okay, there's a few more hands up. Councillor Laredo, followed by Councillor Danberg.
Thank you, Chair Leary. So Commissioner Morse, the superlatives have been said already by Councillor Crossley. I won't take a lot of time repeating them. I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with you since you started with the city back when you were with the school department, which is, at least for me, a long time ago now. But you know, your work is just superb. The leadership, the willingness to listen to feedback, the communication with members of the city council, with the mayor, with the public. And you know, I, for one, really appreciate your candor. If we ask you a question, you don't know the answer, you tell us. You almost always know the answer, so that's a pretty rare occasion. And when we're wrong, you're willing to tell us. And if we give you feedback and you think it's something you can do better, you do it. And, you know, I can't ask for anything more in a leader than that. You clearly inspire your team. They are loyal. They view you as their leader. They view you as someone who has their back. If they make a decision and something goes wrong, you're the guy in charge. And I think that's something that in my experience in the work world at least, and in government is rare. And we benefit just extraordinarily from the leadership. I think everyone in this committee wants to clone you and put you in every other department we have. That's not to take away anything from anybody else. But if every single leader of our departments had the characteristics that you exemplify every single day, we'd be even better than we are. So I'll leave it at that with the superlatives. I don't want to gush too long. One question for you and only one question. Crystal Lake Bathhouse, you said there are some minor improvements planned, but clearly that area needs a lot of work. When do you think we can expect that to be done, and what do you recommend be done there?
So are you asking, Counselor, when is the larger project going to be done?
The larger project, the bathhouse, the beach area.
Yeah.
We own that adjacent lot that we purchased or by eminent domain a number of years ago. It's kind of sitting there. There's obviously tremendous potential for that area, but it's not being realized right now.
So it's an interesting question. The Crystal Lake Bathhouse has a lot of history, not just because it's a historic building. It's not in the short term, put it that way. It's in our capital improvement plan. It's a little ways out. If I were a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I would anticipate that you probably will see improvements to the beach and the beachfront and to kind of the park area first, because that is where people spend the vast majority of their time when they go to Crystal Lake. But the bathhouse does need work. There's no doubt about that. We are doing some security upgrades. We've got to replace some overhead doors. We do a lot of painting, bathroom work, things to try to improve the user experience. But like when we talk to Carol Stapleton over there, if folks get a chance, I would encourage you to swing into the bathhouse. It's not a gem, certainly, but when you see people come, they either don't go in the bathhouse at all, or if they do, they're in and out in minutes. So building projects are very expensive. There's no doubt about that. And oh yeah, no, and you're 100% right for raising the issue. But because they're so expensive, I think that the money in the short term is going to be better spent trying to improve the swim experience and the kind of parks and rec experience. The building project will come. There's no doubt about that, but I would imagine it's still going to be a little ways out. I know Jonathan Yo is on as well. He might have a thought on it.
If I could just add that Parks and Rec is in the middle of designing with a whole community process, designing those improvements to the beach and the park, improving accessibility, improving stormwater runoff, improving the beach experience and the swim experience. And so that is really the priority. And eventually the bathhouse, there'll be larger improvements, changes to it. We can't predict what that's going to be, but the focus is really where the people spend their time, and that's in the park and in the beach.
So Mr. Yo and Commissioner Morse, I actually agree 100% with that approach. We have a finite amount of money. I wouldn't put it in building a glamorous bathhouse. I'd much prefer to see the swimming experience of folks be improved. And by that, I mean a much nicer beach area with real sand for little kids to play in, with a nice area for people to sit as they watch, and an improved dock area as well. I think those improvements would cost us less money. I wonder if we could tap into CPA funds for some of that work. That just like we're doing with Gath Pool, it's clearly an important recreational. It's frankly an underutilized. Well, it's used a lot, but it could be used much more in a much better situation with I don't think a phenomenal amount of money, but I'll leave it at that. I'll look forward to seeing the near-term plans. And you said, Mr. Yo, that for the actual beach area, those are ongoing right now?
Yes, they are. There have been a series of community meetings and design concepts. I think in the next several months, that is going to pick up again. So we'll make sure that everyone is notified, because it really is, it's our gem. It's our beach. It's the whole city's beach. And it's critical that we get it right.
So just one final question on that point. Would it be worthwhile scheduling or docketing a discussion item on that for some point in the next, say, 3-4
Yeah,
months?
I'm sure the commissioner would be happy to do that. And I'm not sure if that's a PF or programs and services, or maybe together discussion of where we are. I'll talk with the commissioner about timing on that, but
Would you,
that'd be a good idea.
Mr. Yo, before I put together a docket item, would you just get back to me after you've talked to the commissioner?
Will
And
do,
Mr.
yeah.
and Commissioner Morrison, just, I don't want to put something together that doesn't make sense, but I do think it's important for us to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner, again, for really, truly outstanding work, and I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Rado. Councilor Danberg, followed by Councilor Humphrey.
Thank you very much. I just want to add to and reiterate everything that has been said about our wonderful Commissioner Morse up until now. And in the interest of time, won't repeat it, but want you to know that I too share all of those feelings, and I'm tremendously grateful to you, Commissioner Morse, for the wonderful communication skills that you have, in addition to all of your technical skills, which we have heard over the years, and know how much of a grasp you have on all of the technical details that you need to know and do know, and have imparted to us over the years. So yes, I would not want, as Councillor Crossley says, to even think about what our city would be if we did not have you as head of our buildings. And thank you very much for the way you treat your staff and the way you are able to communicate with the public. Also, I want to thank Councillor Laredo for bringing up the bathhouse, which I was going to do. And now that we have had a good discussion on it, I won't bother to go into it. In Ward 6, we are very interested and anxious for improvements to move forward, both with the beach and with the bathhouse eventually. But the beach is the most important thing for us to deal with this summer. The other question that I would add about Ward 6 is the hut on Tyler, at the end of the Mason Rice camp playground. What plans, if any, do we have for future exterior renovations of that? And is there anything in the works right now?
So there is something in the works right now. We're looking forward to an ARPA project over there. We're going to be painting and restoring the exterior of the hut. You'll be happy to know, Councillor, that I notified. I dug through our emails that you and I exchanged a couple months ago, and I already reached out to the residents who reached out to you to let them know that this project was coming, and they were very thrilled and appreciated that follow-up.
Yes, good. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for being our commissioner and doing everything that you do. You certainly step up to the plate in every way that we would ever wish for a commissioner to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Danberg. Councilor Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Yeah, I guess I also have to add my voice, thanking you profusely for everything that you do. I mean, sometimes I'm a little concerned if you're answering some of the emails while you're on vacation, because I worry about, make sure you get your vacation in with your family and everything. But that example that you just gave, talking to the folks that had reached out to Counselor Danberg, I mean, that's the kind of stuff, especially at the ward counselor level, that like makes a huge difference for me to do my job. And I'm sure you feel a pretty similar philosophy, which is the faster we can get back and the more follow-up we can do, people will be happy. Even if you can't get them everything they want the communication, that helps. I know my most recent email newsletter, I just copied your entire update on Countryside and just said, here's the update from Commissioner Morse. I didn't even put any commentary on it myself. So, I just, it's tremendous appreciation. And when there's an issue where I don't know quite whose jurisdiction it is, I usually just go to you. Still not completely sure what rats had to do with your specific portfolio, but I'm glad that you were the one that took it on, because we get such a fast response time when folks have questions and concerns about that when it comes up. So just certainly tremendously appreciative of that. I do at some point in the next, I don't know, day or next week or whatever, I would like to probably talk to you offline about some of the capital projects in more detail. But since I'm not on this committee, I don't want to take up everyone's time if it's just kind of my own curiosity on things that have probably already come before either this or a different committee that I just haven't seen yet. So we can follow up offline and set up a time to talk. But in the interest of the fact that most of us spent every night this week, or at least a significant number of us spent every night this week going past 10 or 11 p.m., I will just leave it at there, and we can talk details about some of that later. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Councillor Humphrey. Councillor Crossley.
Thank you. I just neglected to mention one thing, which is that I hope as well that the council acts wisely and we are able to do the Horseman project soon. And I wanted to just ask you, with respect to that project, I mean, we've all been talking about what an outstanding team you have and that you nurture. And I would think that, what's gone into this budget is some thinking about how you're going to staff all the different projects. And so I'm assuming you're ready to go on the next phase of developing the Horseman project. But could you just talk about, assuming the mayor's plan or whatever plan, that $600-something-thousand a year is freed up for the debt service, and we know we have it. Tell us what the next steps are and how you would move this forward.
So not that I am ahead of the city council, but having a docket letter at the ready would be wise. And I do have that. So the next step would be as soon as the funding is established, I would submit a docket letter to the mayor's office. It would then be docketed with the clerks. This would be the design funds needed to get through site plan approval. So as soon as the votes occurred and that money is available, that docket letter would be submitted. I would go before Public Facilities Finance and subsequently the full council to obtain the design funds. I would immediately have a school building committee, community and DRC meeting to re-engage with the community. I would do my certified mailings out to make sure that I'm re-engaging with the neighborhoods, so that I'm picking up people that may not have kids in the school system and people that have become more aware of the project over the past 9 months. And then we would begin immediately in moving forward with feasibility and pushing towards site plan approval.
So you have the staff in place to get this going right away?
I do.
Okay. Well, that's my hope, is that we are moving that project forward right away, so that you can do that and your outstanding team isn't short of work.
Yeah, we don't want them getting bored, that's for sure.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much. I know we're not making motions, right? You're just going to ask for a straw vote.
That's right. My intention is to get a straw vote to approve the building, public buildings, budget this evening.
Okay,
So, okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up, so,
I would love to make that motion.
okay, well, Councillor Kelly has made the motion to approve a straw vote for the Public Buildings Committee in the amount of $6,213,409. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any nays? Okay, well, thank you very much, Commissioner, for being here this evening.
Thank you very much, everybody.
So our work is done here tonight. Everyone have a good evening. It's a relatively early 8:30. And I hope everyone gets a good night's sleep. Good. So good night.
Thanks. Thank you, Allison. Good night.
Thank you, Allison.
Yep. Good night.
thank you.
everyone.